Miss Mackenzee is a trailblazer in a realm of sex positivity and adult artistry. She identifies as a kinky, pansexual, neurospicy woman that enjoys living an alternative lifestyle. With a career of years of innovative performance and thoughtful advocacy, she has emerged as both a celebrated content creator and a vocal activist for ethical practices in the adult industry. Drawing from her own transformative journey, Miss Mackenzee challenges societal norms around sex and sexuality, embracing her identity with candor and confidence. Her work not only celebrates desire and erotic expression, but also underscores the importance of consent, body autonomy, and inclusivity. Through her dynamic online platform, she connects with audiences who seek to reclaim the narrative around adult content, empowering individuals to explore their sexual selves without shame or compromise. In this episode, you might have guessed, we'll be discussing topics of sex, sexuality, porn, society. We'll be doing all of that with respect to curiosity and without judgment. So, thank you so much for being with us today. It's super kind of you. And I've got a lot I want to ask you, so I'm just going to get straight to it if that's okay.
Of course. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. I wanted to take you back a little bit and just understand a bit about the person you were before you were formally Miss Mackenzee. What were your formative years like? How was life growing up for you?
So I was brought up pretty secluded, I would say. I was brought up, I went to Catholic school my whole life, very secluded. I played sports. I was a very big sports person. I was close to my family. I think if I look back now, I think people kind of always wanted to follow me, and I asked advice. Like even elementary school, people asked me for advice, friends, family, and it kind of was really natural for me. I found myself, I guess, in the limelight often. I did theater and things like that. So, and then, as you know, I remember as an example, like when I was very young, like tying up my Barbies when I was younger. So I guess I always had some kind of inclination toward, other forms of sexuality, and, kink, things like that. Yeah. Very innocent back then, but, a little different. I don't know if every child did that.
I don't think every child. I mean, I haven't. Maybe we'll see a bondage Barbie one day. There's
Yeah.
been so many other versions of Barbie. Why not? It's part of life,
Yeah,
isn't it? So absolutely,
for
I think that'd be a
sure.
good
For
thing.
sure.
So you studied for a bachelor's in education. So obviously, communication, teaching, learning was all key to you. And what did you think at that stage your career path might look like?
I definitely expected, because I have two bachelors, my other one's in music theory.
Okay.
And so I really thought I was going to be a music teacher for a really long time. And I thought I would be in a high school and teaching theater and choir and, all of the things in regards to music and theater. And that didn't happen. This was not even close on my radar.
So what do you think it was that drew you to sexuality, adult industry as a potential career path, and how did that evolve to I guess understanding the person that you are?
So I didn't really delve into sexuality until I was around 19. I just never thought of those kind of things. I was really like sheltered. I was a virgin until then, very secluded, like I said. And then I was at a nightclub in South Carolina, and I met a woman who owned a dominatrix house. And I met them, and they sort of gently introduced me to the lifestyle and what that could look like. And, I guess like sex work and things like that. And then realized when I did that and I got kind of thrown into it, I was like, wow, this is wonderful. And the expressions that can happen in this and the identities and the excitement, Garrett, it was like my eyes were opened for the first time. And so I kind of really delved in after that. And I really liked the idea that I could help someone explore themselves deeper,
Mhm.
without judgment. And that was really like, I saw so many people with emotional responses that were so powerful and made me feel so fulfilled to really help them explore things in a non-judgmental way. And I
That's a
think
lovely
that's
description.
where I became born. Miss
Well, this is
Mackenzie
it.
became
It's almost
born.
like a second life, isn't it? It sort of feels like you were, and this is a pretty terrible analogy, but you almost had a sort of a life that was lived in black and white before, and then suddenly became a life of vibrant color and all the sort of colors and sensations and sounds and smells and everything around you. It just, yeah,
Very
reached out
much.
to you, I guess. So did you know immediately that you tended towards the more dominatrix side rather than a sort of submissive side? Was that always you said before about people came to you for guidance and support and stuff when you were
Hmm.
younger, so it feels you almost emit that sort of feeling to people.
I think so I basically like raised my younger sister
Mhm.
who's almost 10 years younger than me. So I always sort of had this mommy energy, I would
Yeah.
say. And so like this leadership mommy
Mhm.
energy. And so it just naturally came into my sexual identity as well. It
Yeah.
just was very natural. I never felt like I wanted the opposite side of that.
Mhm.
Just didn't feel authentic to me.
Mm.
And also, when this woman approached me, she had said, "Wow, you look so strong and dominant." And I was like, "What the heck does that mean?"
This poor 19-year-old virgin at nightclub.
Yeah. I'm like,
Okay.
"What does that mean?" I mean, I'm 6 foot tall.
Mhm.
I think I emit that kind of energy naturally. And
Yeah.
I guess this person saw that in me.
And how long did it take you then to sort of, try word is really, almost be comfortable in who you were and sort of almost establish the the manifestation of Miss Mackenzie? Because obviously, from somebody saying to you, "Look, you're a very dominant presence. You're very
Yeah.
strong, and have that very." There's a there's quite a journey from that to actually, okay, right now I really own it. How did that sort of progress?
Like, I guess things that like shaped that for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I read a book
Mhm.
actually. It's a trilogy. It's called the Sleeping Beauty trilogy,
Okay.
by Anne Rice, and it has a lot of underlining alternative sexuality things to it,
Yeah.
right? And there was some, forceful actions and sadistic kind of actions
Mhm.
involved in it, and alternative forms of pleasure. And I just like dove in deep with this book series and really opened my eyes to like what could be possible. I also was very into like vampire type stuff. So the
Mhm.
idea of someone like taking someone and, really doing it in a really sexy, erotic way was really just like, I was like, oh man, this is so sexy to me. And I had a partner at the time. I was dating somebody who was significantly older than I was and had a lot more experience than I did. And he really like opened my eyes to stuff. And it did it in a really cool way where I was able to ask questions or like really have deep conversations about what this looks like. And now I know this as like negotiating prior to an intimate experience, but I didn't know that back then. And so I really like delved into like exploring my sexuality with this person. It was very very much an eye opener for me. And then I actually went to a big queer club that
Mhm.
was down there. And I went to it regularly. And that was eye opening because I got to see different gender expressions and identities and how that may link to sexuality in some way. And so that was really cool. It really showed me an idea that, like, there's more to life than just heteronormative culture. And so that was really awesome and eye opening for me. And then also working at the dominatrix house really did that. I know I was able to see so many sexual identities that were so diverse, and
Mhm.
interests, and everything that were so not like what we're taught. My sexual education was not inclusive and not good. Definitely in the United States, sexual education is not where it should be in any kind of way. So it really showed me a lot of things to help me be drawn to other forms of sexuality and what that could look like for
Yeah.
people.
It's a really interesting point about the sex education, and it's not dissimilar here. So I know the US is getting sort of stricter in certain states now because of the sort of presidency in the Republican Party. But in the UK, it's pretty much wear a condom, don't get
Oh,
don't get an STI, and consent's important, which is great. That's
mhm.
really as far as it goes. I mean, it's certainly not. It's people talk about different sorts of sexuality, and certainly my daughter's school, which is an all girls school, they're much more open about talking about different sort of how people perceive themselves, different genders, and trans, and
Oh,
lots of things, which is wonderful. But generally, it's very much a almost sort of a practical guide to not getting pregnant and not getting an STI. But there's
like
no,
proactive with that, and
yeah, there's
absolutely
no sort of,
abstinence education. Yeah.
yeah. And I talked to a really lovely porn actress a few weeks ago, and we're talking about porn and how people access porn at a much younger age now, and before they understand what relationships are. And she was saying that porn is a good thing for people that have some experience, looking to try different things, looking to explore different things. But in her words, it's not a place to go to for sexual education. So we
Yeah.
don't get educated at school. Parents and carers, I imagine, typically feel a bit hesitant to talk about different sexual practices with their children, and you go into porn and suddenly it's all there and literally sears into your brain. So it's hard for children to understand what is, yeah,
Realistic.
what the options are. Absolutely, realistic is a perfect word, realistic, and also to know that the thing they're thinking about, millions of other people have thought about it and done it.
Yes,
It's you
for
you
sure.
aren't odd, you aren't unusual, you aren't strange, you aren't a bad person for thinking about this at all. But nowhere, nobody tells you that.
Yeah.
That's the challenge,
For
I think. Of
sure. And people do go to porn, I believe, for
course,
education.
they do.
Like, oh, how do I do this? How
Yeah,
do I go down on my partner? How do I
yeah,
do this? And it's like, you need to realize that they cut this in moments that you don't see. You
yeah,
don't see if somebody says enough cut. You don't see if they add more lube or talk about things or have to take a pause because people have to go to the bathroom or take a drink of
absolutely.
water or
Yeah,
literally anything that
yeah,
happens in intimate times. So
yeah,
it really gives a inaccurate portrayal of what actually goes on.
yeah. And one of the challenges, I think, you get the big porn aggregators like Pornhub and YouPorn. I think Pornhub now gets 3 billion clicks a month. That's quite a lot. That's a lot of people that have clicked on it by accident or simply
Right,
stumbled across it.
right,
Three
exactly.
billion a month. And I think one of the challenges is that if you are typically, and it's boys typically, access porn between 12 and 13 now. So when I was 12 and 13, porn was a page torn out of a magazine, maybe Playboy or Hustler,
Mhm.
if you were very lucky. And that went around the playground, the schoolyard. And, oh my God, it's a naked woman. Oh my God, she's got no clothes on. That
Mhm.
was so. Whereas now, you go into any of these sites, and the number of categories that are listed, the number of things you look at are endless. And I think there's actually a report in one of the papers here today was about the increase in women experiencing unwanted choking, spanking, rough sex because a lot of younger men see it on porn and think, well, all women are into choking, all women love anal,
Mhm.
you go straight to anal without any lube, and most
Mhm.
women like to be with 3 or 4 people at a time. And nobody has hair, and and that's not good. So I talked to my son about it, who's in his teens, sort of said, look, this isn't what to expect when you're sort of dating somebody. This is not what things are like, and it doesn't talk about consent. And there are some really good porn sites out there, typically made by women, content creator women, which is much more. realistic, much more,
Inclusive.
body friendly, lots of things. Whereas standard porn, if you like, is very confusing if you're 12 and 13. You don't,
Mainstream porn,
yeah, you've
absolutely.
never even kissed a girl or
Absolutely.
held hands with a girl, and suddenly you see and you think, oh my goodness, should I be doing this?
Yes.
This is what I
And
think I like. I
also,
like this.
I feel like people see, just as an example, that's how shame comes involved, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes,
oh, this person's vagina doesn't look like the one and I see in
yeah,
porn,
yeah,
or just things like that. And so women, my experience has been, people that I've worked with, women who feel a lot of shame towards their bodies because they don't look like a porn star body that they're
yeah,
used to seeing. And oh, I don't react in that way, or my body, whatever that looks like. And so there's a
yeah,
lot of shame regards in that, especially when people use that as education. Like,
yeah,
oh, I assume you're supposed to be this way, or
yeah,
just being frank with you, like some people are like, oh, I don't have my butthole bleached or something like
yeah,
that, just as an
absolutely.
example,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a lot of shame towards that, unfortunately.
Hmm. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, how do you balance? So you've got, well, I was going to say dual roles, but we're not sure what the word is for 20. You've got these so many different parts. But one of the things that you do is create content, and whether that be verbal or visual, and also you're a big advocate for ethical practices and sex positivity. How do you balance the two? And how do you find the challenges of being an advocate are?
Hmm. Um, so like I think I always strive to produce engaging and informative discussions
Mhm.
around consent, representation, sexuality, all those things. And I try and move that into my work, bring that into my work. I think I also promote brands and other creators that align with that, with my morals and values around ethical behavior, and also around accountability, because things happen. We make
Yes.
mistakes, or some, especially in the kink world, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, but
Mhm.
things happen, right? We're doing inherently unsafe things. And so things can happen. So, talking about accountability and transparency, if you've ever harmed someone, or if you've ever gotten hurt, or you have any kind of, just an example, like an illness or something, to be aware of that, to
Yeah.
be able to give consent in regards to some of these things that we do. So I guess I could say that. And then I also emphasize, I have a Discord community of sex positive and kink positive people. And so I emphasize community interaction, where people can talk about this and sort of share their insights and their experiences in regards to that. And also fostering an open dialogue for these
Hmm.
things to continue happening, and then sort of release some stigma surrounding a lot of that stuff, that is still a thing.
Yeah, and I think talking about it is just the key. It was the reason I started doing this. But it was just to sort of talk about it and try in a tiny way to yeah, explain that there's not a taboo or a stigma around this. Things you don't want to do, you don't want to do. Things you do want to do, you do want to do, and things. But I think one of the challenges, perhaps, in getting us onto the kink side of things, because people feel there is a stigma or taboo to something, they perhaps do something without preparing or knowing what the consequences could be, and you touched on that just then. So that's one of the challenges, I think, and I do think there's so many things we wouldn't do without knowing how to do it. We wouldn't cook without reading a recipe. We wouldn't drive the car without learning to drive, whatever. But we
Hmm.
can buy handcuffs, ball gags, whips, whatever online, and yeah, you can do some damage. And I mean,
Well,
seriously.
yeah,
So that's
for
yeah,
sure. And also, we're not taught as a society, as a puritanical society, to not talk about sex. We just
yeah,
do the thing, we don't talk
yeah.
about it.
Hmm.
And so there's some stuff like, oh, well, if I talk about it, it's going to be embarrassing. I might as well just do it and see if they like it or not. And that's the wrong way
So
to think,
yeah, your partner says, "I've got a surprise for you," and looks around the corner
right?
wearing a mask and brandishing a whip. It's like,
And
okay,
then also
that's
the
fine.
fact that a lot of people assume consent based off of
Yeah,
being in a relationship for a certain amount of time. Like, oh, well, I know them, I know their limits, I know they'll tell me if something's not, so they trust me, I can do XYZ. And it's you still have to talk about XYZ to make sure there's consent.
hmm.
and that everyone understands that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
I mean, you talked before a little bit about understanding with your partner about the value of negotiation of things. Could you talk to that a little bit? So when a couple or two people, three people, whatever, want to try something, how does the negotiation typically go, or how could it go to make sure it's comfortable for everybody?
So I have a list of some things that you should make sure and talk about to align on things.
Hmm.
So first is your mood. How do you want your mood to go during your experience? Because that's going to dictate your words you say,
Yeah.
the environment, how you say things, how intense your activities are, and the mood could just be the mood could just be like, I really want to just connect. Like,
Hmm.
I really want to connect and I really want to enjoy my time and really feel good with my partner. Or it could be you want to feel teased or punished or submissive or anything really.
Hmm.
And you got to figure out to align with that with your partner so that everyone understands. And then your goal for your time. What is your goal? How does everyone want to feel at the end of this experience? Exhausted is a thing, maybe more connected, multiple different ways. And then I talk about any health concerns. So, health concerns are not just surgeries that you've had or ailments that you have, it's what are maybe potential medications you may need during our time to keep
Hmm.
there so that if an emergency happens, you're not scrambling and running everywhere. So, like, just as an example, maybe you need an inhaler during your time just in case something happens, or an EpiPen in case you're allergic to anything during your
Mm.
time. Maybe you use a glove that someone's allergic to, right? Or a condom, or literally anything. Blood pressure medication, things like that. And then I talk about the activities that I'm thinking about, like having involved in our time.
Hmm.
Maybe you want some breath play involved. Maybe you want dirty talk. Maybe you want role play. And what does that look like for everybody? And then also in the activities, I talk about power exchange. Do you want just like a giving and receiving and kind
Yeah.
of switchy, feel good energy? Or do you want someone to take control and take the lead? And just because we say power exchange doesn't mean somebody's a dominant or a
Hmm.
submissive.
Yeah.
It means somebody who's taking the lead and doing the activities and really being the one in control about how things go. Or do you want to be the receiver? I want to receive everything and feel all the sensations and feel good. And then also talking about safe words and safe gestures aren't just for kink activities.
Hmm.
You could have something happen and go, whoa, that is not for me. Stop doing that thing. I hate this, right? Or
Yeah.
even a trigger that may happen during. So, emotional trigger. You get triggered by a song or something or a nickname that's you're called by,
Mm.
like, oh, you're a dirty slut. Oh, no, that's a no for me. I just
Yeah.
got,
Yeah.
so you should always have safe words and gestures because when people go into intimate activities, our brain is flooded with endorphins, and so that technically means we are intoxicated, brain drugs. And so that's why I talk about making sure that negotiations happen before any sexy activities happen.
Mm.
So, just some ideas of things that you should include in your talks. And even if, I mean, I have a partner that I've been with almost 10 years, my submissive, and we still have conversations before every single time. It's not as involved as it used to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
but just like, how are you feeling today? How's your body feeling today? How are you mentally? So I can make sure that you're in the right headspace to be able to play. Just some examples.
No, I think all of those seem completely valid, really. And I think talking about it as well can just be a turn on by itself. Just sort of thinking about things you're going to be doing, and actually, because some people might think, well, that isn't very spontaneous, is it? I just like
Yeah.
sex to be
Yeah.
spontaneous, but actually, the spontaneity. You can talk about these things on goodness knows a Monday,
Hmm.
and you're planning to do this next weekend or whatever. So I think the build up and the almost the oh my goodness, the anticipation can sort of
Yeah.
lead to a more fulfilling experience. I would have thought than rather the perfunctory. Okay, we're not going to have sex on a Wednesday night. Right, we'll do have sex and then move on to the next thing. This feels
Absolutely.
like more of a more of an event almost. Something it's yeah.
When I say negotiations, that's why I like the term navigate with your partner, because then it's
Nice.
like more everyone involved
Mhm.
gets to say something and gets to build this fantasy together. And because if you don't want it to be clinical, like this
No,
lawyer conversation you're having, you want it to be sexy. Like I say, negotiation can be foreplay. That's your
absolutely.
foreplay time
Mm,
to really build this energy and anticipation and excitement for what
mm,
you're about to do or what you're planning to do. Yeah, it can totally be this really intense, passionate foreplay that you're having to
mm.
build on this together. Um,
Sorry, when you said lawyer, then I could sort of just imagine a lawyer leaping out of the wardrobe. Say, no, 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 sorry. Clause 1.3 says no touching here.
exactly.
Sorry, right, yes.
And then making sure that you're having a conversation afterwards to keep the
Yeah,
consent ongoing. So
yeah.
I call it a debrief. So afterwards, having this conversation about what worked, what didn't work, if you discovered any new limits that you never want to do
Mm,
again, or things that were your favorite things,
mhm,
or, all of that. If there was any negative reactions, how do we avoid that for future? And all that kind of stuff helps build intimacy with partners to,
definitely.
no matter how wonderful and great your sex is with your partner, it can always get better. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have the wonderfully titled BDSM and Intimacy University. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that and just some of the experiences you've had with people that are perhaps coming along to see you at the beginning. They're a little bit hesitant. They're not sure they want to be talking about this, and how they develop during the time. And so a year, 2 years, however long later on, it's like, my goodness, look how much they've changed and embraced and accepted themselves.
Whew, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, here's the yeah. Sorry, carried away there.
So first, BDSM and Intimacy U. I came up with BDSM and Intimacy University as a way for people to explore and dip their toes into alternative sexuality. So
Mhm.
they are free to just stay on the intimacy side and not dip into that at all, or sort of pick and choose like a la carte things that they may want to learn or discover about themselves. Um, and so a lot of my teachings, I teach at least twice a week live every week. And then I also have tons of recorded classes. All of my stuff involves like very gently easing in the beginning. And then my classes kind of go into more advanced stuff so that everybody of all levels and varying levels can come to my class and learn a good amount. So it's not like every single 101, 101 classes still involves some maybe more advanced activities that you might want to dip into.
Mhm.
Um, all activities are consensual, which I talk about that, there's clear communication about boundaries and desires for everybody. Um, yeah. So, and one of the things I really love about BDSM is that it can take penetrative sex off the table and can take that as a goal for people, or orgasm as a goal for people. And you can take that off the table, which allows for less pressure for people, especially asexual folks or people who are demisexual, or who had trauma, right? And they want to take that off the table. And so this allows for exploration of intimacy and connection without having penetrative sex or orgasm or any of these things as goals. It really can really help a lot of folks evolve and learn about themselves in a completely different way.
It's a really interesting point, and I think we do certainly. If you were to ask people, well, can you explain what sex is? Most people, sadly, would say it's penetration. And
Absolutely.
I think, I mean, we hopefully, even most men know by now that most women don't experience orgasm through vaginal penetration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as people get maybe a little bit older, or people at certain times of their life, or people are on certain sorts of medication, or there's lots of reasons why penetration sometimes isn't possible, or it feels almost that the pressure to have penetrative sex is so great that actually it just spoils the rest of it. You almost, right, I better sort of rush to this point just before my erection goes down or whatever. And I think
Absolutely.
being able to explain actually, yeah, sex can be just touching, or it can be
Kissing.
absolutely. And how is anything more intimate than kissing? It really,
Absolutely.
it's such a beautiful. It's and yeah, and many couples don't kiss as much as they should do. And just having a good old snog or a good old pash, or whatever you want to call
Makeout
it. How fabulous is
session.
that? It's so like
Yeah.
going and then getting to okay, the second base or whatever. It's so those things
Yeah.
you sort of forget about it. We think, no, it's all about sex now. Sex is sex, which I think is a shame. And I think that's the opportunity within BDSM. And maybe people listening think, oh, well, that's just it's all about whips and chains and everything else. And it really isn't. There's so many gentle things that are part of BDSM. Like you were saying before about
Absolutely.
teasing as part of it, or yeah, or just sort of withholding something as part of it, or just it's a very different. It's probably almost more mental than physical in a way.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I mean, most people that, I guess most everyday people say that they think of BDSM as like this German dungeon porn, scary, screaming,
Yeah,
strict, everything like that. I mean, everybody's different. Kink
yeah,
is not a one size fits all. That's
mhm,
what's great about it. You can pick and choose what feels good for you and your relationships,
yeah,
and then leave the rest. That's pretty one
yes,
of the really great things about that. But then, like I think about just it's not that it can be so beautiful and connective and bonding and um, exploratory and just beautiful. Some of the most beautiful relationships I've seen are people in power exchange relationships. There's so much conversations and consent talk and so many things that don't typically happen in everyday relationships.
yeah,
And so I think it's really beautiful. It's
yeah.
my
And
my take on
yeah, no,
it.
I agree. And I think you talked there about the power play thing, and again, not about being completely dominant or sort of standing there in riding boots with a crop. I mean, if you think about something like, I don't know, somebody's tied down with silk scarves and somebody is just touching their body with a feather and avoiding their erogenous zones, and how much power is there in that? Or the person is wanting the release so much, and they've given the power to the other person, male or female, male and male, female and female.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. It's that's the power thing. Exactly as you say. It's not always about Germans in dungeons. It can be.
It
That's
can be
fine.
right.
Yeah,
I'd say 95% of my scenes and experiences, I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'm
yeah,
playful, they're laughing. I mean, it's for me that feels very authentic and natural. So it's not like I'm playing a part. It's just like
yeah,
I'm just enjoying my time and allowing it to be real.
yeah,
Like I'm a goofball, I'm silly, I'm playful, and so like that kind of comes out in my play as well. I'm not someone not that I can't be if that's what somebody wants, but my stuff
mhm,
is not really strict or, you know, corporal punishment based or anything like that. It's
yeah,
fun and playful and exploratory and let people enjoy themselves and then flirt with lines of maybe pain or things like that to have
yeah.
them push their comfort zone and their boundaries in a really consensual way.
Mm. Do you think is there sometimes a case where somebody might have been thinking about this for a while, and therefore hopefully they would have done some reading and they would have explored more, and they would think they had a sort of body of knowledge about the different elements that excite them and interest them. Do you find that sometimes people sort of dive in too hot and heavy straight away, and don't build up very sort of gently and start from scratch, or is it just a mixed bag?
Well, so what I've discovered is a thing called play frenzy that I think people go into. And it's the, oh my God, this exists. I can do all of these things and I want them all now.
Yeah,
And so you want to push the edge and push the edge and push the emotions and the intensity and the connection. And so
hmm,
there's a lot of that, which is kind of part of it's unhealthy because there's this level of you forgetting and realize there's like this lowered sense of self-preservation, like
Yeah.
you make wrong choices maybe, or you play with the wrong people because you just want the
Yeah.
experiences. You want to enjoy yourself and have fun, that you may not fully engage in your I don't know what it's called, but like your senses regarding your safety. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that me in the beginning of my journey, I played with anyone. It didn't matter. I just really wanted to experience the things and enjoy the things. And I know that I made some decisions with people that I shouldn't have played with, because I also wanted people to be happy. So there's like,
Yeah.
a lot of people
Yeah. That people
pleasers.
pleasing. Yeah.
And so you just want people to be happy and enjoy their time with you. And so there's definitely that I've seen a
Mm.
lot. I talk about that a lot with people that are new within this, to pace yourself. Pace yourself. Have an experience, take it in, maybe journal about it, things like that, and then have another experience. Like you dip your toes in rather than diving full force in and maybe making the wrong
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah. It's like going to a sort of, it's like when you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, you tend to eat far more than you actually want, because you, well, I can have it all. Look, but I can have as much as I
I have
want of this stuff.
options.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it, and that sort of, you don't then get the pleasure of each moment in a way, because it all sort of merges or builds into one. So, and that's
Absolutely.
true with life, isn't it? So, I mean, I'll find an author that I love. He talks about Anne Rice, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I must order 20 of her books." And by the time you get to the 15th one, he's like, "Oh, I'm exhausted now. I've
Hmm.
lost the pleasure of first finding that." Or I'll find a drink that I like. Oh my goodness, I love this. You end up with sort of 10 bottles of the same thing, or whatever, and it's not the same if you, yeah, if you allow it to be something that is interesting. As you said, you sort of go into it, you debrief, you talk about it, you're building it for next time. That's, you hope it sort of builds and builds a bit. And I'm sure at some points, some things you try naturally you don't like, don't want to do again, which is
Absolutely.
fine.
I
I
do
think,
tell people, if they can, not pressury, but if you
mhm,
can, try things twice, because
yeah,
you never know. There could be environmental
yes,
factors. It could have been the person you played
mhm,
with that you had about, you never know.
yeah,
And so not something that's a definite hard limit, like don't do that again.
yeah,
But you're unsure if you liked it or not. Like try it again in under different circumstances, and that
yeah,
might be different. And also, I think a lot of people dive in and don't have education, don't think that it exists. It does exist. I have over 150 classes regarding sexuality and kink and all kinds of stuff. There are classes, and you should learn about the risks of all of the activities that you are engaging in, so
yeah,
that you can be better informed. I mean, learning anatomy as an example, you know,
absolutely, yeah,
things like that, first aid, stuff like that. Things
yeah,
happen. I've seen
yeah,
people pass out. I've seen people go into shock. I've
mhm,
seen people have blood pressure problems, glucose problems. Like, you never know. And to have this kind of information helps you feel more prepared
mm.
for situations to arise, whether they're negative or positive.
Yeah. I'll put lots of links in the chat, 'cause it is yeah, it's almost like a master's worthy volume of content that you can access on the website. And it's a great website. It has very
Thank
informative and
you.
it's very
I
instructive. And I think it's, yeah,
I have students that'll go, "Can you teach about this? I really want to know this. Can you teach about this?" And then
yeah,
it just kept adding to the library.
yeah. Because that's it. Because if you are if both of you are trying something for the first time, and yes, it will feel slightly different to each person that does it, but in general, I think, should it really feel like this? Should it really be that painful or that awkward or that uncomfortable or that? And there's a difference between painful and uncomfortable and awkward. And you want
Yes,
to make sure, okay, yeah, it should feel like this, because if you do it like this, okay. And it can, and you said before about the trying things twice. I think that's really interesting, because bizarrely you can try something on a weekday night, and then something on a Saturday morning when you have all day ahead of you, and they can feel very, very different. It's exactly the same thing,
absolutely.
but it is the environment, it's the temperature, it's whether it's sunny or raining, all these little things, external things you think don't have any impact on
Your
you.
mental state on that day that you didn't
Absolutely.
even
You've been
realize that
working
you're
all day and
stressed.
you've got to think you're working tomorrow, whereas the weekend, the kids are out and the house is free and it's very, very different, I think. So I do think that's a good point about understanding how the environment can impact what we're feeling and what we're doing.
Yeah.
What do you think are, this is probably impossible to answer. What do you think the most important elements to I was going to say fulfilling, but I would say happy sex life are?
Hmm. I would definitely say like communication and consent, ongoing communication and consent, but also like level of compatibility
Yes.
and also chemistry surrounding relationship as a whole, and then also their sex life, right? Because not everyone shares all of their interests with their partner. If you 100% align with your partner, that's phenomenal, but that's not
It's quite rare.
usually how it goes. And so, what does it look like with compromise surrounding that so that everyone feels fulfilled in the relationship? And then also still building trust. It doesn't, even if you're not adding in alternative sexuality practices, trust is such a major component to relationships
Mm.
and then also sex. And being able to trust your partner to I guess like not just have their own benefits in mind, like their own thoughts and their own desires. It's like they want you to enjoy yourself and be fulfilled as well. So like lack of selfishness,
Mhm.
I would say too. Those are just a few that I can think
Mm.
of that I think are important.
And they all are. And that leads on to something else I was going to ask. So a lot of people perhaps meet their partners when they're, well, obviously when they're younger, but when they're relatively young. So they might meet when they're in their 20s and you're still establishing yourself, both professionally, personally, and everything. And as you get older, into your 30s, your 40s, whatever, and people do change in relationships with everything, with what they are interested in, what they want to watch on television, what they want to read, what they want to eat, all those things. What do you do if you get to a stage where one of you is interested in maybe exploring a BDSM lifestyle, or has always thought there might be something else I want to try or do, and your partner is just not interested? You talked about it, and the partner's no, I just no, sort of just. How do you how do you handle that? Do you
Navigate
negotiate to
that.
explore elsewhere, or what do you do? Because
It's a really good question. I
sex is
get
super
that a lot,
important. Yeah,
a
sex is
lot,
really
a lot.
important, but so is a relationship and a family. You don't want to sort of break up the family for reasons of purely of sex. But yeah, how do you answer people when they ask that question?
There's a couple things.
Hmm.
First, it's normal for someone to have interests outside of what your partner wants or needs or
Yeah.
whatever. That's very normal. It's how big of an aspect is that going to be in their sex, as an example, right?
Yeah.
Is this a huge fetish of theirs that they
Hmm.
can't get off without or get turned on
Yeah.
without? That would definitely affect the relationship, because
Hmm.
if this person isn't into this thing at all,
Yeah.
then then how is this person going to feel completely fulfilled in their intimacy?
Mm-hmm.
And so, first, I would talk about that. How big of an interest is it? And if it's not so big, then it looks like compromising. Can we add bits and pieces of it into, maybe not the whole thing, but
Yeah.
bits and pieces of it? Or can we have this night be about you and then the
Hmm.
next night be about me? So, like some kind of compromise within that. If someone is absolutely, without a doubt, no, I do not want that thing, there's a couple things. I talk to people about what non-monogamy may look like in
Yeah.
regards to playing with someone else.
Hmm.
Some people like that idea, some people don't, and talking about that. The other thing is, I'm also a certified hypnotist, and I work as one of my things is a certified erotic hypnotist, and part of that is working with sexual and erotic lifestyles and things. And I can either make the one, obviously consensually, have the one person either not be into that fetish anymore, or the other person now be into that fetish. So I've done that a lot too, which is really cool.
It is. Yeah.
So there's that. there's also conversations around it. Like maybe there's things that you can bring in, like talk around it and not actually doing the activities. So flirting with it, and that's the hot part. It's not actually doing the things. The tabooness is talking about it, and so there may be
Yeah.
that as well. It really depends on the relationship dynamic and
Yeah.
how everyone is open or really interested in the kink, the fetish, the whatever it is, that the idea, whatever that is.
I think it all comes down to communication, doesn't it? Whether one-on-one or with somebody like yourself, a third party involved. And I think having that sort of third party is really powerful, because I think one person doesn't want to be persuaded by another person or almost feel, all right, well, I'll do this because I know it'll please them, but because nobody really wants that. You want it to be something that is consensual, but having a
That's not
third
sexy.
party there to talk
For the
about it. No,
partner
it's
just
not.
doing it to please you.
I know it's not. That's not. It doesn't feel good, does it? No. I think having that third party
For
there
most
is
people.
really important. Yeah. So how have your family and friends, how have they sort of evolved along your journey?
Hmm. Um, I'm very open about what I do and what my life is. I live
Yeah.
very authentically and out and proud. So my family does know all that I
Mhm.
do and have kind of evolved on that journey. Like I'm very close with my mother and my sister, and my mom asks me questions all the time, like how was work today and what did you do today? And
Fabulous.
oh, tell me something wild, tell me a wild story. So she's very supportive. And then my friends, I think I don't have many close friends that are not kinky,
Yeah.
that are vanilla. Um, it's not that I don't or want vanilla friends. It kind of ends up like that. It's like comfortability and being able to talk about, I don't know, an event that I went to or a play
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I did,
Yeah.
or talk about my life and, my partners. And so, that feels good for me. I also have a lot of queer friends in the queer umbrella. And it's not that I don't have cis het people in my life, but most of my, I'd say, is that. And especially like with our government the way that it is, I feel like I want the outcasts and the different people and the minorities and all of that around me, to help support them and be supported.
That's really
I don't know
nice.
if that answers your question.
No, it does very much. And I think it's fairly, when you think about it, it's fairly natural, because a lot of the time when we're with our friends, we talk about our relationship and our work. And if you think, well, I can't talk about either of those, what are you going to engage with? So you want people that are, yeah, interested and interesting, and can talk about your work, and can understand elements of who you are and what you do and what you think, all those things.
Absolutely.
I think one of
And
the
be
things
able
that,
to get advice myself. Like I'm
yeah,
not perfect. I still seek advice, and I still ask others for, I still go to classes all the time. I'm in a certification program right now for PTSD, like helping people with PTSD with hypnosis. But I'm always going to classes and always learning new safety measures, new education things that come out, new consent practices, all different kinds of stuff like that. I feel like if you're not doing that as a leader in what you do, then what are you doing? Because you need people to emulate what you're doing.
you do. Yeah, people will model behavior to see how you are, that you're learning and trying. And are you still trying and experiencing new things?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. I mean, I think about when I first, just as an example, when I first started my sexual journey, like there were things that I was like, I will never do that. Absolutely 100%. That is a hard limit. I will never touch that. And like
Yeah,
some of those things are like my favorites now.
yeah,
Like, because I've found a partner or partners that really enjoy the thing. And I found it to be connective and fun and exciting, and I'm in relationships where the trust is built and it's great, and so I can do the things without fear of whatever. So yeah, I've definitely for sure evolved, and I still continue to. I think if we're not evolving as people, what are we doing? We're here to learn and to
yes,
evolve, and
yeah.
all of
I think that generally about life. If there's a day when you're not learning something new, what what's the point really? You've got if you think, well,
Absolutely.
I've learned, I know enough now. Really?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that could learn a lot more things. I think one of the things that's the very, very obvious about you. This is a good thing, so don't worry. You obviously invest a huge amount of yourself into the work you do and the clients that you work with. So you give a lot of yourself, and I'm sure you sometimes hear things that are quite traumatic or quite difficult or quite challenging. How do you protect your own mental and physical well-being?
That's a
And I
really
would,
great question. Um, I try and prioritize self care. That's a
Mhm.
huge thing. I'm working on a work life balance. I want to put my all and everything and 100% of myself into my business and
Yeah.
into my clients. And I would say that's something I'm still struggling with. I give a lot and extra and all
Mhm.
these things, but I'm working on what it looks like. I'm starting to have work hours where I don't answer emails past a certain time, and learning to limit my commitments. And also, the other thing is because I work from my dungeon space that I own. And so I learned to have a separation in my headspace. So like I do this thing, I have this session, especially like some of like the PTSD clients that I
Yeah.
have. I learned to like shift my headspace. So I do a lot of like self hypnosis. I do a lot
Mhm.
of guided meditations, calming music. I like burning herbs. So I'll do stuff like that to sort of clear the space, clear the energy, and then like go, okay, now I'm going into like everyday life outside of that. It's still, like I said, still something I struggle with, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, and it's super important, isn't it, for not only for you but for the people you have in your life, because you want to be the best version of yourself, and you can't look after yourself. You can't love yourself, and you can't give of yourself. Then it's very hard
Absolutely.
to give to somebody else. I think that's super super important.
And you can't pour from an empty cup.
You cannot know, and I was thinking the whole work life balance is nonsense. And the reason I say that, because I think I was thinking balance is sort of is like this.
Mm-hmm.
So one is really high, one you've got to get it balanced. It's never going to be like that, is it?
I
I think
agree.
it's a bit like you say with an empty the cup. I think it's almost more like having the cup, and it's what are you pouring in at a certain time? Is it more work? Is it more play? Is it more leisure? Is it more fun? What is it? And I think it's just very fluid. I think, and I think what's important is not to castigate yourself when it becomes, oh, I spent too much time doing this, because it balances out ultimately. As long as you're
Mm.
not feeling burnt out, as long as you've got people you can talk to, which obviously you have, as long as you've got support in all parts of your life, I think that's super, super important.
I
And
think I was taught that if I'm not productive, I'm not doing the thing. If
yeah,
I'm not, then in capitalistic society, if I'm not
yeah,
being productive, I'm not successful or I'm not whatever that looks like,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. It's hard. I used to have a thing that I called a WOAD, which was a waste of a day. And
Oh,
what that meant is if I got to the end of the day and hadn't done something or achieved something, I'd so angry with a wasting the day. I found what really worked for me was planning those days. So today is going to be a day where I'm just going to go outside with the dog for 2 hours, sit in a cafe for an hour, read a book, and then go home. So I haven't done anything at all, but I think the mere fact that mentally I planned to not do anything almost
okay.
gave me permission to do it. So yeah, so I have less words now.
Well,
I
I
get
started like planning for self care days, like,
yeah,
because if not, your body plans it for you.
yeah, well,
You've burnt out,
absolutely,
and then your
yeah,
body plans it
100%.
for you.
And I
And
went through that a
so,
lot. Yeah, so when I was
yeah,
in corporate life, I'd get to my vacation time, and I'd be sick for a week. My body had
mhm.
held off and held off and held off for so long. As now you can relax and just yeah, then everything attacks you. Then um, so the last question. You've been very generous with your time, and your knowledge has been. I super enjoyed it. So the last question, and only you can answer this, is what is it like being you?
What's it like being me? Exciting. I think that every day is something different, which I love. don't know. What's it like being me? Um, that's a really hard question. I don't know. I can tell you things that bring me happiness and joy.
Hmm.
I can tell you that.
Yeah, what brings
Um,
you happiness and joy?
Spending time with my two partners, spending time with my puppy, my baby. I love singing karaoke. I'm a karaoke fanatic. Out, me being human outside of my job, those are things I really like to do. I also like, and then inside my job, I really, truly, honestly love helping couples and other like relationship dynamics to help them
Yeah.
have like healthier, hotter, safer, more fulfilling intimacy. Like it does bring me joy. I I wouldn't say it's like it's hard because it's like it is part of my identity because I really do enjoy that
Yeah.
genuinely.
Hmm.
It makes me feel very fulfilled and happy. And when I see a couple just staring into each other's eyes and they are just so in love and they've been maybe out of love or fallen out of that for a very long time, it is one of the most powerful things to know that, like, maybe part of that was me facilitating that and guiding them to have that experience. So I guess that's part of me in a nutshell.
That's a lovely answer. 'Cause it's quite rare in most jobs that we actually get to ultimately make a difference, really. And you are making a difference. And I will echo what you said about having a puppy is pretty cool. No matter how bad the day's been, when you walk in, even if you've been out for 10 minutes, I walk in and the dog races up with this completely unconditional excitement and joy and love, and it's a special thing, really.
Absolutely.
As a
My
pet.
dog's a little bit of a menace. I named her after her name's Winifred, like the witch in Hocus
Yep.
Pocus.
Yes.
So she's a menace, absolute menace, but I love her dearly.
Yes, and you can't think about anything else when you're just being run rings around by an excitable dog. So yeah,
Absolutely. Unconditional love.
it's a nice thing, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. You've been more than generous. I'll put lots of links into the notes, and I would encourage everybody to sort of stop by your website, listen to your podcast, and yeah, just explore more about you. Really, because you're a fascinating, warm person who's full of joy, and that's quite rare in this world.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on here. I enjoyed my time with you as well.
Well, thank you.